Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. How are you? I hope you're good. Secure, safe. That's a lot to ask these days, all the wars going on. I hope you're not too close to any of those, whether human-made or nature-made. The fires in my old neighborhoods in LA, it's a little scary, but there's crisis happening all over the planet. We've been talking about the climate crisis for decades. I know that since I was a kid. But those old politicians with all their money, stubborn lot, aren't they? Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, we have to succeed. Our Daimoku has to succeed. We need more and more people. Like, subscribe, share these videos, share the website, share the resources. Yeah? O Manjushri, a person may be going on a long journey, as we are. On the way, he becomes very tired, and he puts up at another person's house. While he is asleep, a great fire breaks out. At once, he gets up and thinks, I shall now surely die. As he critically introspects, he puts on his clothing. He dies and gets reborn in Trayashtrima, the Pure Land. Now, does he literally die and go on into an afterlife? No, this is translation bias. And actually, I ought to consider correcting that. Because what he's actually saying is, in that moment, you're transformed, right? You ever been in a scary situation for yourself or somebody else, and suddenly you become, admittedly, a different person? You put on your EMT helmet. You know, you become calling 911, and I have an elderly woman here who's falling. You don't say, my mom fell down. You say, I have an elderly woman in her 50s who fell down and injured, what's your address, blah, 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 blah. Okay, we're on our way. Please stay on the phone, right? You change in that moment. That's what this is about. We live moment to moment to moment to moment. So this, and I'll have to go through the whole book because I don't think I paid that much attention to it, thinking that you would already know this. But really, I'm writing this book for anyone, new or well-read, yeah? So, I shall now surely die. He dies and gets reborn. I got to change that wherever I see that. Okay, in that instant, he transforms his thinking, his identity, right? This is what we do. We don't think about it that way, but we should, right? You ever been in an accident and it's a bad accident, or maybe not a bad accident, but it's enough that it causes damage, right? Right away, your legal hat comes on, your insurance hat comes on, right? Okay, these are the things I need to get done now. I'm not thinking about groceries or fashion or whatever it was I was on the way to do. This needs to be taken care of this instant. So I put on a different role. So this guy enters the Pure Land. Then after 80 lives, well, we're stretching it out now, but after a while, being in this position, right, he becomes a great Brahma. He really puts on his clear, purposeful mind. After 100,000 lives, a great monarch. Okay, it goes on and on. He gets reborn as a man, becomes a Chakravarti, becomes ruler, world's greatest monarch. Okay, so I'm going to have to work on this whole paragraph. So essentially, as I've said many times, for some reason as humans, it always takes some kind of a trauma for us to get aha moments or to whittle things down to their primary, to their principal needs, arguments, actions. Our first principles. Although humans being what we are, driven by Mara and Darakute no Mao and all our cravings and clingings, it doesn't last. We slowly etch our way back to our default position. Now, you and I chanting, our default position keeps rising. Sometimes it's very noticeable to us and sometimes to others. Sometimes it's just happening under the surface and we don't really catch it until a month later, 6 months, a year later. When we look back and go, gosh, my life really has changed a lot more than I was aware. I never really thought about it. That's because of your ninth consciousness. You keep awakening your Buddhahood and it's going to, purify all the others. It takes time. We are a huge, complex engine, a freight train of karma. And the engine of life never stops. So this is just stating the obvious. It's not mystical at all. This event changed his life. He became more and more outstanding in society. This person does not gain life in the three unfortunate realms, These aren't places, The three unfortunate realms, hell, hunger, animality. Those are ongoing. As Nichiren doctrine practitioners of the Lotus Sutra, we know this, the 3,000 realms in a single thought moment. And you can look up the math on that with not Max Ernst, thinking art, Max Planck, I have videos on that. What is a moment? This is how things go, This is how life is. Again, if you can translate that, certainly you disabuse yourself of this idea of reincarnation. It weaves its way through a lot of this stuff. But remember, 3,000 years ago, this was people's stubborn reality. In the Lotus Sutra, Shakyamuni was kind of fed up with it. And he really put the screws to these monks. Look, I've been teaching you all this time, and why are you still stuck there? No more. Stop it. And yet, this is after the Lotus Sutra. He's about to leave the planet physically, and he's still getting these stubborn thoughts. So let's disabuse ourselves of it, Because of this, one possessing humility should, O Manjushri, meditate on Shakyamuni Buddha, but not regard him as the same as that which is created. O Manjushri, the non-Buddhist heretics and those of bent mind may say that Shakyamuni Buddha is the same as the created. This is the same exhortation in different words, People who don't understand the teachings still think of Shakyamuni Buddha as a created, like the Buddha part of Shakyamuni is created just as the man is. This is why they make the fundamental error of thinking that with Shakyamuni's death, so does Buddha die. And the only reason they could possibly think that is because they haven't yet gotten it through their skulls that Buddha is their sentient mind, their consciousness. Even after 8 years of teaching the Lotus Sutra, still, they don't get it. those of bent mind. Now, the people who translated this agree that there's a bent mind to be had with people that don't understand that Shakyamuni is not the one and only Buddha. And yet, they continue to have a bent mind when it comes to reincarnation and multiple afterlives. This is why there are sects of Buddhism that still talk like it's hard to discern their Buddhist school from Christianity. They still use all that rhetoric of magic and magical thinking and mysticism and faith and worship and blah, 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 blah. Oh, it's nauseating. That's not Buddhism. And here, my friends, I am working at my utmost to try to clear that crap out of our minds, because it's not Buddhism. So I just found a big one. I'm going to have to go through both books and make sure that I straighten this out for us. Not because we don't understand, you and I, but because this book is going to be a tool for study for you, for me, for new people. And I've got to disabuse it, unpollute it of these confusing. It's very confusing to read something like that and then be told, well, there's no afterlife in Buddhism. What? In Tibetan Buddhism, they talk about a stop. That's not Buddhism. Plain and simple. The bhikshu, the monk, who upholds the precepts should not think that Shakyamuni Buddha is a created existence. Should one say that Shakyamuni Buddha is one created, this is nothing but a false statement. It's not Buddhism. After death, such a person will fall into hell as surely as one is in one's house. Now, that's an interesting conundrum. Listen to those words and tell me if you don't think that that's confused. The death here, after death, should say in the next moment, right? Because moment to moment living is that's the cycle. That's the cycle of birth, death, or rebirth, rebirth. It's just harder to say. That's what the cycle of birth and death is, from moment to moment to moment. That's why you can instantaneously awaken your Buddha mind. Why? Because after the dying of the samsaric moment, as you instantiate the next moment, you can choose to instantiate with your ninth awakened consciousness of Buddha to experience that moment with clarity and then continue to do it. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho. Make every moment instantiate in the mindfulness of awakening. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho. See? This is why we chant. It makes sense, really. In that way, Buddhism is incredibly simple. Thank you, Nietzsche. In understanding how it works, well, we've got how many billions of seconds of life trained in samsara. It's a lot to put aside, but we can do it. We can do it because we're reaching to the fundament of how those moments were instantiated. If you're tired of getting snowed in your cabin, stop the snow from happening altogether. But we got to dig ourselves out every day. That's essentially what we do with our human experience, dig ourselves through samsara every day. Shut it down. Oh, much easier said than done, I know that, but that's what our training is for. One must not say that he is a created being. You should henceforth in this life of the cycle of birth and death, thank you very much, abandon ignorance and take to right wisdom. Know well that Shakyamuni Buddha is an uncreated. Should say Shakyamuni is created, but Buddha is not. Buddha is an instantiation of experience. Experience of what? The Tathagata field. The engine of life. One who meditates well on Shakyamuni Buddha will be perfect in the 32 signs of perfection and will attain unsurpassed enlightenment. Anuttara Samyak Samodaya. Yeah? Now I have a note here. Yes, Cunda is right, as he speaks of the Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, as uncreated. So why does he not see that this ability is all-pervading and easily attained in each and every being in the assembly without the support of one alone who has attained it? He has conflated Siddhartha as an inseparable part of Siddhartha's mind or consciousness. All sentient beings can reach this same realization of Tathagata potential within their own minds without the need or requirement of a trainer to bequeath this state. Right? This is the important part, the bequeathing. One does not need, or can, for that matter, offer you Buddhahood, force Buddhahood upon you, wrap it up in a nice gift and say, here's Buddhahood. No one can do that. But you can awaken it, you can invoke it, you can manifest what is already dormant within you. Your ninth consciousness is already there. And as I was saying in the last video, it helps you out in life without even knowing what's happening. Those aha moments you have in life. That's that facility, that Tathagata field of potential manifesting itself, albeit strangled by the other 8 consciousnesses craving and clinging samsara. Make sense? All right. Let me continue reading here so I can get somewhere in this chapter. Then Manjushri praised Cunda, saying, well spoken, O good man. You have already done what will beget you an endless life. That feeling of ultimate freedom, instead of always feeling like you've got a bridle in your mouth. So many obstacles in life. When you see clearly, there are no obstacles. You well know that the Tathagata is one eternal or outside of time and unchanging and is uncreated. Right? That's the potential again. I can't believe how many. Well, this was the first draft, so there's going to be a lot of little notes I need to fix. You now well shield Shakyamuni Buddha's created form existence, Buddha. One who encounters fire covers his body with clothing because of humility. This good mind gains him birth in the Trayashtrima, Thrimsha, the Pure Land. So, although it's hard to say, you've heard the Dharmashriya heaven referred to. I took that out of here, but should take out the word the, that's confusing. He becomes Brahma and the Chakravartin, or benevolent ruler, and he does not get born into the unfortunate realms and thus will always enjoy quietude. Big clue. Did you hear that sentence just then? So you know I'm not just malarkeying you. Right? Listen carefully. He becomes a benevolent ruler of life, right? And he does not get born into the unfortunate realms and thus will always enjoy quietude. That's contemporaneous. That's not realms elsewhere. This is not after physical death, afterlife, get born into. This is the next moment. I'm going to spell this out so it cannot be mixed. Moment. Yes. Melly Mel, I am using a ton of these little guys. I wish they would make these easier to separate, though. Always something. Hey, I'm a fella humming. I'm a humming being. All right. That is how things will go with you as you well shield the created from the Buddha. You will, in the days to come, gain the 32 signs of perfection, the 80 minor marks of excellence, and the 18 characteristics peculiar solely to Shakyamuni Buddha. You'll start to develop the traits from your Buddha consciousness. That's what that means. Your life will become endless with no more bonds of samsara, which is what I was saying earlier, right? There will always be an eternal or outside of time flow of quietude and happiness, and before long a day will come when you will awaken in the light of the alms-deserving and the all-enlightened one. O Cunda, Shakyamuni Buddha himself will speak more expansively later on. And you and I shall shield the created body of Shakyamuni Buddha, set aside for the present questions of the created and the non-created. You should, as you see proper, quickly offer meals. To offer thus is the best of all offerings. The bhikshus, bhikshunis, upasakas, and upasikas may have undergone a long journey. They may be extremely tired. To be perfect in dana paramita, give the purest things as required. Thus, speedily giving is the fundamental thing. O Cunda, give the final offerings to the Buddha and the Sangha, more or less, full or not full, quick as the occasion requires. Shakyamuni Buddha will rightly be entering parinirvana. So, another allusion has been made, allusion, not illusion, has been made to something I was saying in my preparatory talks about this sutra. What Manjushri has done here, because he's educated enough to know what's being said here, but Manjushri will play the role of the I didn't know in order to inspire, make those he's talking to aspire, make them have to come to terms with how they are thinking in order that they should transcend that thinking and clarify as they hear themselves what they actually are saying versus what they are actually learning. So Manjushri does this kind of thing like Nichiren does in his writings, where he poses a question as though he were somebody asking him a question, and then responds to his own question, because he knows there are those that are reading his letter, will read his letter, or are present at the time, who don't know how to formulate the question regarding their doubts or regarding their misunderstandings. So he poses the question as clearly as possible to give himself the opportunity to answer. And having that format helps those others who would read the letter come along for the inquiring mind or the inquiry of the mind that he is addressing at the time. Does that make sense? So this is another way of doing that, is Manjushri stands in for the person who may not understand something in order to exhort, right, the foundations of understanding that his inquisitor or partner or whatever is trying to solve. And in doing so, they either make their own misunderstandings glaring and obvious to repair, and most times repairing it for themselves, or Manjushri comes back with some information to help them do that. Not just Manjushri, but the senior bodhisattvas use this mechanism a lot, just as much as Nichiren used the question and answer device. It's almost the same thing, yeah? Then Shakyamuni Buddha said to Manjushri, it is true, it is true. It is as Cunda says, well said, O Cunda, you have already attained the delicate point of great wisdom, and you now master the Mahayana Sutras. In other words, you now are getting it, you understand. Manjushri said to Cunda, you say that the Tathagata is uncreated. The Buddha's body is of long life. There it is, confusion again, right? Not by Manjushri, but in the translation here. If this is said, Shakyamuni Buddha will be pleased. Okay, so how should this be worded? Tathagata uncreated. That's true, but let's just say field. And the Buddha's body is of long life. The Buddha's body is the mind. If this is said Shakyamuni. Okay, so can I read it that way? That's how right? You say that the Tathagata field is uncreated, and the Buddha's mind is of long life. That's more accurate. If this is said, Shakyamuni Buddha will be pleased. Cunda answered, Shakyamuni Buddha is not pleased with me alone. He is also pleased with all beings. Well, yes, okay. Manjushri said, Shakyamuni Buddha will be pleased with you and with all of us beings. And Cunda answered, do not say, Cunda is an argumentative sort, isn't he? Do not say that Shakyamuni Buddha is pleased. Now to get pleased is an inverted mind, because all those other people still need to take this step of a realization. So Cunda is not going to let Manjushri get away with any kind of wiggle room. An inverted mind is birth and death. Right? It's the adherence, the stubbornness of thought, craving and clinging. Clinging is, right? Stubbornness is another word for clinging. An inverted mind is, in other words, he's saying the inverted mind is a mind capable of understanding with clarity and enlightenment, inverted back to samsaric principles. Birth and death are of created existence. So, O Manjushri, do not say that Shakyamuni Buddha is a created existence. Well, he didn't, but he's happy with this rhetoric, isn't he? If you say that Shakyamuni Buddha is a created existence, I and you commit an inversion of truth. That's right. That's right. That's what you were just congratulated for. Hello. O Manjushri, the Tathagata has no thought of love, attachment. Right, the Tathagata field. Or potential. It's just potential. It doesn't do anything. It has no thought of love, attachment, or craving or clinging. Now, love is like the case of a milking cow, which, loving her own child, feels hunger and thirst, goes and seeks water, grass, and whether satisfied or not, suddenly turns back. The all-Buddha world-honored one does not have such a mind. He sees all as equally as he sees Rahula, his one and only son. To think thus is what applies in the world of wisdom of the all-enlightened one. O Manjushri, for example, a carriage drawn by a donkey cannot stand comparison with one drawn by the 4 trained horses of a king. That's a pretty shitty example. The case with me and you is also like this. It is impossible. No, I'm sorry. It is impossible to fathom the minute and hidden depths of what is with the Shakyamuni Buddha, even if we try. That doesn't belong there. O Manjushri, the Garuda flies, innumerable yohanas in the sky. He looks down on the great sea and sees such things of the water as fish, soft-shelled turtles, snapping turtles, crocodiles, tortoises, and nagas, and visible forms, and also his own shadow reflected in the water. He sees all these just as one sees all visible forms in a mirror. The petty wisdom of the common mortal cannot well weigh what comes to his eye. The same is the case with you and me. We cannot weigh the Buddha's wisdom. Only because you're not completely Anuttara Samyak Sambodhai, right? Because when a bodhisattva reaches enlightenment, you do see with the Buddha mind. The Buddha is your experience of clarity, of enlightenment. So I'm not sure Cunda actually is getting that last little click. Yeah? So what happened here? Manjushri said to Cunda, "It is thus, it is thus. It is as you say. It is not that I do not see this, Cunda. I only meant to test you regarding what belongs to the world of a bodhisattva. You see?" Kunda's taking this personal. Manjushri is trying to help him evolve, to understand what a bodhisattva actually needs to be. Then the world-honored one shot forth from his mouth a light of various colors. The light shone brightly on Manjushri's body. Shown up by this light, Manjushri fathomed this out. Then he said to Cunda, "Shakyamuni Buddha now shows this wonderful scene. He will enter nirvana before long. The last offerings that you carried in some time ago will best be offered to Shakyamuni Buddha and then given to all those who are congregated here. O Cunda, know that this is not without reason that Shakyamuni Buddha lets shine this light of various colors." On hearing this, Cunda was silent and sad. Shakyamuni Buddha said to Cunda, "It is now time for you to give offerings to Shakyamuni Buddha and the congregation. Shakyamuni Buddha will rightly enter parinirvana." He then said this as a second and a third time. Now, Shakyamuni is making a point. I inserted a note here. Shakyamuni making this point through language as differentiating Shakyamuni Buddha from the Tathagata, as we are in two realities at once, that of dualities and that of oneness. the offerings to Shakyamuni Buddha and the assembly, while the Tathagata retreats from the body of Siddhartha, the mind of experience, as Buddha. In fact, both are extinguished, but in different methods. Then, at these words of Shakyamuni Buddha, Cunda cried and wailed, sorrowfully sobbed, and said, "Woe is the day, woe is the day, the world is empty." Again with this. Well, you understand, we would be sad, but not sad in the context that we're losing Buddha, just that we're losing a phenomenal experience of a teacher fully enlightened, yeah? But we all need to take on that role. Shakyamuni was our exemplar. This is how to be a true bodhisattva in the world. Enlighten your Buddha mind so that you can walk the world in the saha physical realms and assist others to make the same discovery of the ninth consciousness that you have. So strictly speaking, Shakyamuni was never a Buddha. See, that's part of the misunderstanding. Or the Buddha, which history throughout the world is clung to, right? Shakyamuni, the great sage of the Shakya clan, was a fully realized bodhisattva. Fully realized because he had awakened fully his ninth consciousness of Buddhahood, Buddha experience, and spent his life after that training us how to do the same thing. To be a Lotus Sutra bodhisattva. Also, he said to the great assembly, "Let us all cast down our whole body to the ground and beseech Shakyamuni Buddha not to enter parinirvana." Cunda, this is part of the process. This has to happen. Cunda is he's on the verge of getting it, but he's struggling, yeah? Then Shakyamuni Buddha said to Cunda, "Do not cry and unsettle your mind. Think that this body is like a plantain, a mirage in a hot season, watery foam, a phantom, a transformed body, the castle of a Gandharva, an unfired brick, lightning, a picture drawn on water, a prisoner facing death, ripe fruit, a piece of meat, the warp on a loom, which is about to end, and the ups and downs of a mortar. You should think that all are created things, like poisonous food, and that anything made is possessed of all worries." Right? Don't attach Buddhahood to this. At this, Cunda said to Shakyamuni Buddha, "Shakyamuni does not wish to stay long in this life. How can we not weep? Woe is the world, woe is the world is empty. I only concentrate our thoughts that you, Buddha, will have compassion for all us beings. Please stay long and do not enter nirvana." Well, this stay long and not enter nirvana, though it sounds like a plea for him to just stick around, is part of the rhetoric about what a bodhisattva is, just so you understand that. Shakyamuni Buddha said to Cunda, "Do not say such as love us and stay long in this life. As I have compassion for you and all beings, I today enter nirvana." Why? This is what is true of all Buddhas. You and me included. When we die, Buddha dies, because it is an experience of the conscious mind, not some separate created thing. This is the point. This is so with what is created. That is why all Buddhas say in a Gatha, the law of what is created is by nature non-eternal or within time. Life ended, we leave the world. Extinction is bliss. Not bliss as an experience, but bliss as a final exhalation. I'm done with this. So it's only experienced in that one final moment. You should probably elaborate on that too. I'm telling you, I could make this book 10 more volumes if I wanted. Every word has to be discussed. You know what? That's enough for today. There's very little left to finish this chapter, but the way I'm going, it's going to take another video to do that. I'm sorry. I know some of you complained that I'm long-winded, but this may be the last book that I do, and it is a major task because there's a lot of confusing stuff in here, and I want to make sure all of you really get it, and myself. It helps me to go through this to really, really delve, as I am being my own Manjushri. Yes? And this is how we all learn. I've said this many, many times. There are no teachers other than ourselves. We teach ourselves because we're the only ones who know this database that we've created of identification. And to make sense out of all this data is always unique to you and me. We may say with words that we understand the same things and we understand them at the same profundity, but until we have these kinds of big yap, 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 yap with language, we don't really chip away at the little extremities and hone and polish because that's what it comes down to. All right. Well, with all of that, I hope you got some tools here to help you figure stuff out and your own insights. Remember, lots of free charts and research and so forth on threefoldlotus.com that you can use for yourself and to help with others. I'm always saying, use these videos, share these videos, have somebody come over for pizza or whatever, and help them learn Gongyo. Use them to help you learn Gongyo. Yeah? Chant. Just chant. And then, talk about, maybe watch a video or part of a video. I'd say watch a video or have some printed out things from Threefold Lotus, or if you get a book, you can take a section or a chapter and take turns reading it and asking questions. Maybe you only get as far as 2 sentences, and a blurb, and that takes up the whole evening, Don't go crazy with it, but just begin the dialogue. This is shoju. This is how we help grow the Sangha, get other people curious. Some people won't want to hear another word, and they'll walk away, but they heard Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. That's why you always start with Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, because that opens up that 9th consciousness. And even if they never come back to the practice and hunker down and do it, if they hear it, they will recognize that it's important. And they may end up getting curious enough to start up their own practice. But there's no chance of anyone doing that, and growing this practice so that we can end these wars just by influence. Just by influence. Just by our influence. If we don't tell somebody about it. And you don't know if that one person you tell about it really digs into it and ends up telling 5,000 other people, 5,000 of their closest friends, you know? What if you showed you Lady Gaga, Taylor Swift? I'm not saying you have to love her, like her, or pick a male example, whatever. Right? Could change the world very, very quickly. I'm not saying that's the only thing you should tolerate. I'm saying, shakabuku, you're janitor. I want to say shoju, though, because shakabuku is really a term meant for other Buddhists who have spent a great deal of time misunderstanding the teaching. That's why you have to break their misunderstandings, their incorrect beliefs. But, that doesn't mean go argue with a Catholic. That's not teaching Buddhism, spreading Buddhism. Spread Buddhism with wisdom. Right? The world is so full of animality and violence right now that we need to stay as far away from triggers for violence as possible. For your health and protection. Shoju is the way, yes? Thank you for your practice. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all your support. Patreon people, PayPal people. You are bodhisattvas. Thank you so much for your support. Like, subscribe, look in the description for all the links for different ways that you can support, but also free stuff, like the podcasts and the website. All right, enough blah, blah, blah. Thank you. Take care of your health. Savor, enjoy your practice. Okay? And I'll see you in the next one. All right. Bye for now.